In this edition of The Great Game, dear viewer, I'm going to talk to you about my column that has appeared this Saturday morning in the Tribune newspaper called How to Solve a Problem Like Pakistan. And this video is on that column, my column called The Great Game. I urge you to read the column in the newspaper, and those of you who haven't, there is a link in the description of this video, and I would request you to read this and to tell me what you think, to subscribe to the Tribune's YouTube channel, to subscribe to this property called The Great Game, and to tell me what you think about this video. Now, my column on called How to Solve a Problem Like Pakistan is about India and the international community, and how nearly 2 weeks into the massacre at Pahalgam, very, very unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, when 26 civilians were killed mercilessly, brutally by terrorists, and the hand behind them is from Pakistan. We know that a lot of the Indian government has shared that information of a digital footprint, it is said, and you have read some of these stories in the Tribune newspaper, that there is a VoIP, or a voice over internet protocol, in which these terrorists are speaking to their handlers back in Pakistan. And this information has been shared to the international community, especially with the Americans. And as we know, the US is still the world's most powerful country today, although the Chinese are sort of snapping at the heels of the Americans, are coming a close second, but that is a separate story right now. Today, the US, most powerful and even more interesting, is that it is perhaps the only big country, the big power, that has purchase in both India and Pakistan. Now, on the surface, of course, India abhors what it publicly calls a third-party mediation, preferring a bilateral conversation or an argument or a discussion with Pakistan. But since the Pulwama attacks in 2019, we know that there has been absolutely very little engagement with Pakistan. Diplomatic ties have been reduced to a minimum, and after the Pahalgam attack, even that has further gone down to about 30 people in each mission. We know all this. But I make 3 points in my column in the newspaper, which is called How to Solve a Problem Like Pakistan. The first is that America, being such an influential power, purchase in both countries, has evolved its position from the time in the aftermath of the massacre 2 weeks ago to today. And I give you examples of that. At the time when the massacre took place, the US Vice President J.D. Vance was visiting India. He had some very critical comments to make about the terrorist attacks. And that was followed by Donald Trump, the US president. He and his government offered full support to Prime Minister Modi and to India, and that the Americans grieved and their hearts went out to the people of India in a very tragic moment like this. Simultaneously, or very soon after he made these comments, Donald Trump was speaking to American reporters on Air Force One, and he made this very sort of a strange throwaway comment in which he said, I am very close to India and I'm very close to Pakistan, as you know. And they've had that fight for 1,000 years in Kashmir. Kashmir has been going on for 1,000 years, probably longer than that. And I'm quoting from his remarks to the US press. Now, that seemed a bit odd, because it basically perhaps indicated to me, certainly, that Donald Trump had more important things on his mind, that he was saying that, these two countries, India and Pakistan, they've had this fight in Kashmir forever. And, what's so new about that? That's perhaps the implication of what he said, in his, not just in his body language, a subliminal message, if you like, that came out of those remarks. And then 2 days ago, on Thursday, the US Vice President J.D. Vance, who was visiting India, like I said earlier, at the time of the massacre, he had very critical things to say about the terrorist attack. But 2 days ago, in an interview with Fox News, Mr. Vance said, "Our hope is that India responds to this terrorist attack in a way that does not lead to a broader regional conflict. And we hope, frankly, that Pakistan, to the extent that they're responsible, cooperates with India to make sure that the terrorists sometimes operating in their territory are hunted down and dealt with. Now, that's what J.D. Vance said, and I'll tell you what the message is that he is sending, or what the subliminal message is that he's sending from his remarks. The first is that the US is with India, stands with India, and he's telling Pakistan that you have to cooperate with India to make sure that the terrorists that are sometimes operating in your territory, and that's the second message. He says sometimes operating in your territory, not all the time operating in your territory, which is what the Indian position is. So that is the second message. And the Americans are trying to sort of distance themselves a little bit from what the Indians must want them to say, which is that we stand solidly behind you and against Pakistan. But note, they are not saying that. And that third and very important message from Vance's comments is that we hope that India does not respond to this terrorist attack in a way that does not lead to a broader regional conflict. Essentially, what the Americans are saying is telling India, do not escalate, do not expand this conflict, do not go to war. Now, over the last 10 to 12 days, we've seen, dear viewer, how the Modi government has escalated in many ways. Of course, a lot of these measures are primarily diplomatic, which means that the strength of the missions has further come down in each other's countries to 30. Bilateral trade has been stopped. The airspace has been shut down, which means that all planes, all airplanes belonging or owned or flying the Pakistani carriers will not be allowed to overfly India. This is in response to what the Pakistanis did some days ago. And also it has now just been announced that India is also going to shut down all its port or sea links with Pakistan. The point is that there was not much there in the first place, neither trade across the Wagah-Atari border and no sort of air links as well. The idea is that short of going to war, these are some of the measures that India is trying to take. Now, we've seen over the last several days how the Modi government has also escalated its rhetoric. Prime Minister Modi said in a rally in Bihar soon after the attacks that India will go to the ends of the earth to find these terrorists. And more recently, Home Minister Amit Shah said, "Chun chun ke jawab denge," basically saying that let nobody be under the illusion that we will find these terrorists who harmed Indians, who killed 26 Indian civilians, and we will take our revenge and we will retaliate. That message has gone down loud and clear. And on the other hand, you've had the Americans equally loud and clear tell the Indian government, we do not want you to escalate, in the fear that this could become a wider regional conflict. And the big fear at the back of the mind of the US, other Western powers, indeed across the world, is that if the two nuclear powers, India and Pakistan, if they begin to fight, then this could lead anywhere, and that this could embroil the world in the most horrific of scenarios, which is nuclear weapons. That is something that nobody wants. And another example, let me give you, dear viewer, which is that of Saudi Arabia. The Saudis, you remember that Prime Minister Modi was in Riyadh at the time of on the day of the massacre. He cut short his visit and came home. And at the time, the Saudis, led by the very powerful Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Prime Minister Modi, issued a joint statement in which they said any act of terror cannot be justified at all. There was very, very strong and harsh words about this terror act, this act in Pahalgam, in which 26 Indian civilians were killed. But more recently, a couple of days ago, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has issued another statement in which it has said that they hope that both countries, that India and Pakistan, will resolve this conflict via diplomatic means. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is that the world does not want India and Pakistan to go to war. We also know that the Pakistani armed forces, in the wake of the Modi government announcing that it is determined to do something, has moved its armed forces. They are in readiness. So in the case of a conventional war, the Pakistanis have made clear that they will fight back. And this then is the situation that presents itself today, about 2 weeks after the Pahalgam massacre, which is that the people of India do want some punishment to be meted out to those who killed in cold blood, brutally, 26 Indians that awful day in Pahalgam. The question is, what is the government, or what is the Modi government going to do now? We also know that time is of the essence, and that in a month or so, the monsoons would have arrived over North India and over Pakistan, because the rains don't discriminate between borders, and that it might be much more difficult to then fight a conventional war. But who knows? The Indian Armed Forces are ready. The Prime Minister has said that they will, at a time of their choosing, they will take that step. So the next few days and weeks will be critical, will be key to what the Prime Minister and his government are doing. Before I go, thank you so much for watching. I'd like you to also subscribe to the Tribune's YouTube channel. Tell us what you think. Tell me what you think of this video, and also about all our properties. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.